Testing 1 2, testing testing. Hello, hello, hello. Is that on? Seems to be working now. How's everyone doing today? Perfect, thank you. How you doing, Seisu? What you been up to, brother? Chat's all working out. Sure, TikTok and everything is working. There we go. TikTok chat is up. Steam to recognize the stream. Hey, Riot Girl, how are you? Happy Saturday to you. Hope you're having a rad, fantabulistic weekend. There it is. Team's finally working. Okay, perfect. Hey, Paladin Lord, how you been? Oh, Seisu, I feel that sometimes you just get like the analysis paralysis, or maybe like, I don't know. Sometimes I get in a daze. Does anyone ever do that? Where you like stare at what you need to do and just like get in kind of like a staring contest with your computer or something? Hey, Drake, no worries. No worries. Honestly, I appreciate you dropping in. And this is a nice looking map. I found this on the workshop just a little bit earlier today, and I thought it was really, really good. Yeah, it probably is a little bit of that, Riot Girl. Probably. I wouldn't put it past myself. Yeah. I definitely would agree with that sentiment. Oh, no worries, Paladin Lord. I get it. I get it. What you been up to lately? What's been keeping you so busy? Oh, I really love the use of the round bookcases and staircases here. This map looks so clean. It's called Enclave's Academy of Magic, and it's available on the Steam Workshop. Oh, let me see if I can find a link for it really quick. Found it. Let's drop this. Hey, Vance, how you doing, buddy? You enjoying the new updates? That's good to hear. I hope everyone's been enjoying the Magic update thus far. I know a lot's changed since it launched, and there's a lot of new functionality, and it's, you know, if you haven't been around for a while, you may not have even noticed it. It does definitely kind of give off the the X Academy, Drake, for sure. Yeah, it kind of gives that vibe for, like, almost definitely. Now that you say that. How's everyone's weekend going so far? Did you get any gameplay in this week or any session prep? Seisu says he's been stuck for 2 hours, unable to do anything. Seisu, what are you trying to make today? Let's talk about it. I actually got to participate in a one-shot this last week, and it was a lot of fun. As always, I was over-prepared, but still definitely enjoyed myself, kicked a lot of butt, and enjoyed the story that was presented in front of me. Gosh, this is clean. I really like it. Let's walk a token through it, shall we? By the way, I want to point out something related to tokens. There's actually a section now. Hey, thank you for the likes, by the way, TikTok. Much appreciated for the love. If you go into first person here, or... Nope, okay. In controls, you can click rotate tokens when moving them. You can actually get rid of that, which is, by default, it's enabled, and you can disable it. The tokens will kind of like bend and move, so this is without it enabled. Here, let me go in here, go to settings, controls, enable this. A lot of people have expressed that they don't like how the tokens kind of bend and move around automatically. They follow the tip of your mouse instead of where you want them to. So we added this feature in the last update. It's kind of an underappreciated feature that most people don't even notice. But now they don't rotate with the mouse. It makes them a little bit more natural moving. Hey, Email, how you doing? Pretty boilerplate stuff for D&D. Or whatever you're playing, Seisu. So in the camp, or in the one shot I was playing, I had a forge cleric and an armorer artificer, like mimicked classes basically. And I actually had a lot of fun synergizing the two classes together. And we were in like a really dark, like, cavern. And it was, I guess, I don't know, it was more like a catacomb type situation. There was lots of bones and stuff. And there was a massive, like, 3-headed skeleton. And it was ridiculous. It had, like, legendary actions and stuff, and it was able to stop or cancel our abilities, or, like, basically succeed on abilities, or on checks and stuff. So it made the encounter really challenging. But we were able to overcome that, mostly just with lots of damage. I dropped a Dawn spell on top of like a huge group of guys and the 3-headed skeleton, and war were declared, Seisu. So your players can't just use their military discount for gum and then quit because war was declared. Oh, that's clean. I like this. This little pantry here looks really good. Glad to hear it, Email. This map is fantastic. I do want to let everyone know. Oh, Clack. Actually, sorry, I'm going to hold that thought. Clack over on TikTok says, DA is a lifesaver for my Curse of Strahd campaign. Some maps are so bad, I recreated them with... Oh, okay, cool. Awesome. Awesome. That's good to hear. I'm glad you're enjoying Dungeon Alchemist. Thank you for the kind words. Have you noticed some of the maps that are Strahd based on the workshop? By chance, if you click the Steam Workshop tab and click Browse Maps, you can either type COS or Strahd, and you can find tons that are either, you know, pre-created and shared to use as just use in your campaign, or use as like a foundation if you want to. But thank you for the kind words, Clack. Much appreciated. I forgot what I was talking about. Just prior to saying hello to Clack over there. Hey, how we doing? Man, that week went by fast, right, Tara? How you create water effects. Tim Lloyd, 1 second. I just noticed your message here. Let's set up a new map with water effects. So let's set up a forest. First off, to do water, you cannot be in the dark parchment or green screen biome. You must be in a terrain-based biome. Snow, skeletal plains, jungle, grasslands, forest, etc. Next, when you're in the forest biome, you have water options to generate an AI-based water feature. So you can do an island surrounded by water, lake, lakeside, lava flow, lava lake, and river. Let's just do a river. Notice we're in the forest terrain biome, hills, and evergreen clearing is what we're going to do for the vegetation. We are going to leave no weather, so it will be no snow, and it'll just be like a traditional forest setting. Nice, Big Z. That's awesome. Glad you're enjoying the update. So this map generated with a semi-natural river feature. If you want to generate water by hand, you can click on the terrain tab and click here and click paint terrain, this tab up at the top. And there's a bunch of different liquids. So let's say we wanted like a little muddy pond on the side here, right? There we go. We can turn this into lava or blood or water. We can erase it so it's a dry kind of pit. We can even do that with the river. You have a lot of versatility around like bodies of water, and we plan to expand that in a future update titled Water Worlds, which will give you more functionality like waterfalls, water effects, currents, things like that. You can also increase your functionality for water by searching on the workshop. There's like 3,000 or almost 5,000 3D models. You search water, there's a bunch of liquid and water ones, waterfalls, water wheels, any running rivers, etc. So you can kind of diversify your water right now. Underwater cities, yeah, I mean, you can do sunken cities. Do you want it to be like a flooded city or completely underwater? Only if we get Kevin Costner. Actually, I enjoyed Waterworld. Despite it being like universally panned and bombed, I think a lot of youth from like the 90s or like 80s kids, 90s kids loved like the apocalypse genre, which was kind of an outlier B-movie thing in the 90s, which, you had like the Mad Max movies and Waterworld and Postman and stuff like that. But I actually really enjoyed those movies, mainly because I'd catch them on like TNT or USA, like on repeat all the time, and I'd really enjoy them. I never saw them in the theater or never watched like an actual DVD of them, just like the TV version. I have played Raft a little bit. Waterworld, did you know Jack Black is in Waterworld? Just gonna throw that out there. Jack Black. Way before he was like a household name. He was a very minor bit actor in Waterworld. So I made that deeper, right? And I did this for a reason. I wanted to show a sunken building. So I'm going to do a temple that I'm going to sink down below the waterline. Notice it is quite deep there. That's as deep as I can go, in fact. Yep, he was, Email. He was indeed the plane pilot. So you can do like a sunken flooded village or like an abandoned or like old temple that's been flooded, or the entire area is filled with water. Now, to do completely underwater, that's something I'm hoping Water Worlds will address. But until then, there is actually quite a bit of, like, you can actually do it quite well using lighting. There's a map on our workshop that shows this off really well. One second. I think it's called Seahorse Cafe. Yep, the Savvy Seahorse. Let's do the updated one. So this one was made by one of our community members named Random Ladybird. Absolutely amazingly talented cartographer. And this map is very unique because it's set underwater. And how Ladybird accomplished this was by using a combination of abstract assets from the workshop, and lighting, immersion. He is in Neverending Story 3. Indeed. Sarcastic Ferret. 2012, isn't that the one where, like, the world ends? I vaguely remember seeing that in the theaters. By the way, can I just say thank you for all the kind words to our various community members? We are streaming across multiple platforms right now. Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, etc., Steam. And we have just so many kind words coming in today about people saying that how much DA has saved them time, how much their players like it. I just really do very much appreciate the kind words. As a small team of 10 people, no joke, our team is tiny. We're an indie team for sure. We have, let's see, 1, 2, 3 developers, a handful of artists, an accountant, a lawyer, and myself. I'm the community team. We basically are just a tiny little, rugged team that works incredibly diligently and loves to listen to community feedback and do our best to implement it in a timely manner. But every time we hear kind feedback like that, or when people share, word of mouth with, their friends, their family, their DM, anyone out there that'll listen, if you're standing on a rooftop just screaming about how much you love Dungeon Alchemist, it means the world to us. So thank you so much for all the kind reviews and feedback. And I would like to point out that during these streams, if you also have feedback or suggestions, or you need support, have questions, feel free to let me know, and I will do my best to address it during the stream. Sarcastic Ferret, a little bit, right? Despite how full-featured Dungeon Alchemist is and feels, it's not done. It's still in early access, and it was made by a very small but very talented team. I do think that when the team is small but focused, you can create something incredibly beautiful. And that's not to say big AA teams don't, but I do think that nowadays, the AAA product isn't quite the same as it used to be. Anyway, this map here is essentially a cafe that's underwater, where you can see different scenic shots out the window. And the lighting makes it feel like you're kind of like maybe in a reverse aquarium where the sea life is looking at you. You know what I mean? This is done by using the light filters, which you can adjust the time of day. That's pretty easy. But if you click this little hamburger right here, that's what they're called, by the way. Technical terms called a hamburger. Look it up. So, you click that little hamburger, and in here you have a bunch of different options. You can change the color drastically with filters. These light filters can really change the mood of a map or make it feel underwater in this case. So when you look at this map, I do feel like it does address an underwater type design. Now, that's not a perfect catch-all solution, but remember, you are playing a game of make-believe with your players. At the end of the day, if you tell them it's underwater as the GM of your world, the creator of your world, I think they'll believe you. Now, as you look here, there is a great little shot here with like a reef and some swimming, some fish. Hey, Mateus, how you doing? But yeah, Dungeon Alchemist is still under development. It was realized as a Kickstarter, and the Kickstarter had a series of stretch goals that were all reached, all met, and those goals are now our various roadmap updates for Dungeon Alchemist. So we've delivered on, I think there was 13 total, and we've delivered on 8, and there is 5 left. So the 5 remaining updates, and in no particular order except for the next update, which is Fun with Objects, are obviously Fun with Objects, and then Water Worlds, Tricks and Traps, High Seas, and Instant Dungeons. Each of those will incorporate many new impressive quality of life features, improvements, assets, biomes, etc. You know, that is one neat thing about our devs, is they're committed to providing extended content above and beyond what they promised in the Kickstarter. Many features that have creeped their way into Dungeon Alchemist throughout our development were things that weren't necessarily promised in Kickstarter, but were so heavily requested by our community, we decided to try and implement it. Things like the asset importer, where you can import custom 3D models into your local designs or share them on the Steam Workshop with others, where there's a repository of nearly 5,000 3D models. That was a feature that was heavily requested by our community. So we were like, okay, let's try and implement it. They developed this whole, sub-program that essentially allows you to import 3D files of STL file type, GLB/GLTF, and FBX. So you can do animated files, standalone, just like flat gray, simple 3D files, full color files, etc. Hey, Havoc, how you doing? Welcome back. So, all of these things in tandem allow you to create some impressive maps. And ever since the workshop implementation of these 3D models was incorporated into DA, I've started to see Fallout maps, zombie apocalypse maps, starship maps, sci-fi settings, cyberpunk settings, modern settings, all due to using Dungeon Alchemist as a very, versatile map-making tool mixed with these 3D models on the workshop or models people implement for their personal builds. It is quite amazing to see how the diversity of maps has just exploded since this feature was launched. You can do collections, which anyone can create a collection of assets. Anyone can create a collection. You can go browse the assets on Steam Workshop and be like, I like all these assets. I want to make a collection that's just my favorite hits, like a mixtape of all your favorite assets. That way, anytime you clear out your assets to unsub from all of them, maybe you're like running a little sluggish and you want to clear them all out, then you can just resub to your favorites. Steam offers this as a core feature. One second. So if you go to, if you're in the Steam browser or on Steam's website, this looks pretty familiar when you're in the workshop section, the workshop tab. If you click here, it says collections. So under browse, you click collections. And from collections, you can click create collection. You can't do this within DA, but you can within Steam, either through a website browser or the Steam app. When you click create collection, you can name the collection, give it an image, describe it. You can say items that users should choose between either this one or this one. I think more often than not, items that work together is the best. and then you select the category as asset if it's assets, or maps if it's maps. Maybe a combination of both. And start filling it with assets. That way, anyone can locate it and quickly do so. And some uploaders will put their assets together in collections like this, but it's optional. But anyone can create a collection of assets at any time. Oh my gosh, Random Ladybird. Hey, I'm glad you're here. We were just enjoying your map and discussing how it's such a great immersive piece for underwater. But yeah, I think this map is a brilliant example, but with time we'll offer more. We have 2 updates on the horizon that are strictly water-based. Water Worlds and High Seas. So I'm sure that'll expand your functionality for both, oceans, islands, shores, water, underwater. I'm hoping it'll breach into things like astral seas, not just water seas, but maybe, air ships, water ships, and astral ships. Magical ships, if you will. You can already export for Tabletop Simulator, Tim Lloyd. Tabletop Simulator supports JPEGs, if I'm not mistaken. So Dungeon Alchemist exports as a JPEG primarily for pretty much every major format. And then you can use that as the map. Now, that being said, if you want a full 3D integration, unfortunately, that's something that's probably never going to happen. Dungeon Alchemist was never really conceived as a full 3D export map maker. It was designed to be a lightweight tool that can make maps that are rather small in file size, because our proprietary DAM or DAM file format works as a text file that works with all the data in DA to load maps perfectly, just even if you share the file between people. Our assets are very, very trim and small in size. The average DA map isn't that large at all. And most of our assets are designed to be facades, like smoke and mirrors, if you will. Like, imagine very simple shapes like squares, circles, with elaborate wallpaper on top of them. A wallpaper that makes it look brilliantly 3D and detailed. And it's essentially, that's what it is. It's called texture mapping is the technical term. But many assets in DA are very simple shapes with nothing attached to them other than a brilliant texture map. If we offered a direct 3D model export for, say, Tabletop Simulator or maybe a 3D print, it would be a very simple map with no, water, no lighting, no detail of the wood grain or the floor. It'd just be very flat, simple shapes. And that's because we didn't design it with 3D export in mind. We'd essentially have to rip DA from the ground up and change its foundation to make it work with 3D export. There's a few camps that want 3D export. 3D printing, game design, i.e. like engine export. So they want to export this map and use it for their video game. And I understand that because map making in DA is super simple versus, say, in a game engine. Other people want to 3D print with it because they play in person and they want to print these as minis and taverns and stuff that they paint and then play in instead of on a TV. And then the last one is people want to export for 3D virtual tabletops, which are few and far between. Most of them are either proprietary ecosystems like Tailspire. They don't allow you to import custom, maps from other sources. It's all an enclosed ecosystem. Or when they do offer 3D import, it's more of like an augmented reality, not a true 3D. Or it is just not quite there yet. But that being said, that wasn't our intention when the devs set out to make DA. So ultimately, our plan is to commit to our Kickstarter, focus on the stretch goals from that, deliver those as updates. Once we leave early access, we have a few plans to expand upon our commitments to our community, including feature improvements like VTT Lite expansion, or things that would be, you know, far and above the fantasy aesthetic that we had planned for DA, things like cyberpunk or sci-fi, etc. But that's way down the road. Yeah. If you, I mean, Owlbear VTT, granted, keep in mind as it's all online and it's a free VTT, you want to keep the map small and lightweight. But I mean, just export it as a video. The WebM, last I checked, works just fine with Owlbear. I tested it a few times, and last I heard, both our still video, our still image, and our video exports work just fine. What you would want to do is export without a grid present. So just leave the grid. If the grid's on, turn it off. And then in Owlbear, set your grid to 5-foot squares. Honestly, email, I honestly recommend anyone and everyone share their maps on the workshop or 3D models, as long as, you know, you have the correct licensing for them. So if you created the model and don't mind sharing it with others, or you source the model as a Creative Commons license and you properly attribute it, then I'm totally fine with you sharing those. Maps, I would love it. I love it when people share their maps, because sometimes there's this new concept or creative idea that is thought up in a map that no one's ever conceived before, and when you share it, it starts a wildfire, a catalyst under our community that, you know, people will learn from and adapt from and create from. And you know, some people will see their maps and go, oh, they're not that great. But at the end of the day, you should let the community be the judge of it. They may love your work and be happy with it, and you'll definitely never hear anyone disparage your work or tell you it's awful. We're not a community like that. Everyone here is supportive, you know, guiding, helpful, and just incredibly wholesome. Let's take a look at it. Yeah. Wow, that is cool. I like that. Okay, so this has like kind of a Moria entrance vibe a little bit. Honestly, the only person that gets picked on in this community is me. There are the mods and a few people who also kind of follow in the mods' footsteps. Genuinely, I'm the only person that gets like picked on in this community. So I don't think you'll ever find anyone who is going to be like, oh no, I don't like that, or don't do that. Most people are Thesu, you and your contrarianistic lies. Were the bandits in the cave? You bully Dag too. A little bit, yeah. A little bit. Hey, I just want to say thank you to the likes and follows on Facebook in the last little bit. J.A. Ledford, Keith Klein, and Michael Chow. Thank you so much for the support. Also, on TikTok, we have over 200 likes now. Thank you so much for the love and the support. All the likes mean the world to us as we want to get that, algorithm boost. So thank you very much. I like how you made this feel dark. One suggestion, too, that might be a great way to make it feel a little bit deeper. If you go to Objects, Abstracts, they have this kind of bent wall, right? I'm going to disable it so we can put this wherever we... These are essentially blank slates, and you can put whatever you want in them. And by that, you can change the color. That black isn't quite as dark as I'm wanting, but you can slide it through different colors just to show you there. You can also insert custom images. So let's say you have an image that's just a solid black. And I'm not telling you how to change your map. I'm just more letting you know there are kind of ways to give off that impression. And I feel like that's what you were going for to begin with. Yeah, it kind of seems like you use one of the dark candles to make it extra dark. I think this map is brilliant, though, Emil. Very good build. Very good build. Very good build. Every time I see your name, it reminds me of one of my first jobs. It's such a random thing. So when I was younger, I think not my first job, but like my second job was at a McDonald's. I think almost but a lot of youth in America work at McDonald's once at least. And they had this thing where you could like debit against your hours, your check for food. And the food was extremely discounted. It was like 50, 80% off. And they called it an e-meal. And you'd have to go to the manager and be like, hey, I want to do an email. Can you check my credit? And they'd go and check it. And they'd be like, okay, you can do up to this much. And what do you want to order? And you'd tell them, they put your order through and then change it to an email. Oh my goodness. Random Mac fact. Oh my goodness. How are you? How are you? So clean. Handsome. But I got. Look at this handsome boy. Look at this handsome boy. He just had a bath, so he is a little shivery. Soggy doggy. Exactly, random ladybird. Who's a good boy? How was your bath? You're so quiet when you come in here. I promise you he's real. He's a real dog. Oh, there he moved. Good boy. Little good boy. Okay, handsome boy. I'm gonna steal you already. Oh. Okay. You go with mom. You go with mom. Okay. Doggo time is always fun. So, you built this map for your campaign, correct, Emil? And you said your players steamrolled through it? Was the bandits in this area here, or were they in the cave? Refresh the chat. Because I don't see any YouTube chat. I see it. Thank you, Seisu. Can I make a Feywild map? Heckin' yes, I can, Michael Martinez. So we offer an entire Feywild biome called the Fey Plain. And within the Fey Plain, we offer a bunch of subsets. So you can change your elevation. You can set your vegetation. So we have a no vegetation variant, a Fey forest, a crystal forest, a mushroom forest, and a very dense vegetation variant. And then lastly, you have, water variations. You can do no water, island, lake, lakeside, lava flow, lava lake, river. And this last tab is to tell the map where you want to place rooms by default, where the grid height will be by default. So I'm going to generate this map to show you what the dense vegetation looks like, so you can kind of get an idea. Oh, did I click yes? Oh, I did. Okay. It's loading right now. Sorry about that, Michael. It's a big map, 60 by 60, so it'll take a second. Probably should have loaded a smaller one just for the stream's sake, huh? I'm the worst. There we go. So here is a lovely Feywild generated map with a river down the center. This was generated entirely with the Dungeon Alchemist AI, which is developed entirely in-house, and all of the assets are created by a talented team of artists in-house. At no point was our AI trained using external art or maps or data sets. So you can utilize it to generate this type of stuff, or you can create it entirely by hand with our tool also. But yeah, here is a great little Feywild generation. I love to go into the Feywild and make it purple. I feel like it just feels much more fitting. And then lastly, the rivers in the Feywild, I enjoy making them this, like, molten gold. I don't know why, but I just feel like it feels more Feywild to me. Correct, Riot Girl, correct. At least for the interim. I am the only DA team member in the States. I'm based in Vegas, actually. There is also, yeah, a Fey water, which is kind of this, kind of like a greenish water. I guess the light doesn't help. It looks very purple at the moment, so let's make it day. Kind of has like a hue to it. How did I become part of the team? That's a really good question, actually. Cartographer, how you doing, by the way, buddy? So, I for years, as a hobby, I was a content creator, a streamer. Years ago, I used to watch Justin TV, which was like the first variation of Twitch. And I was like, this is so cool, I want to try doing it. So I tried to stream, but my computer was a potato. It was like less powerful than a hamster wheel. And I would stream, but it just looked awful. So I tried to stream, I couldn't. It was something I was interested in, but my personal technology, my internet, my fundage just wasn't there yet. Fast forward a couple years, I started working at a Best Buy, which in hindsight was a bad decision because my employee discount there caused problems because I was buying all sorts of stuff I didn't need. But I was able to buy a capture card and get a little bit better computer and start streaming. And I started streaming on Twitch. Then I streamed on a website that many may not know called Beam. which later became Mixer. Mixer was Beam was purchased by Microsoft and turned into Mixer's stream project to compete with Twitch or YouTube or whatever. And I streamed on Mixer for a couple of years and became a partner there. And anyway, long story short, I became a stream partner, went from Mixer to Facebook Gaming, and I've been around the block or two as a content creator and a streamer. And I always have enjoyed content creation, and part of me always wanted to branch out into the gaming industry. I either really wanted to get into, working with companies to do content creation of some sort, be on their community team, or I wanted to do voiceover in video games. All of these things were interesting to me. And during the pandemic, I was kind of like bummed out, and a campaign I was in fizzled out, and my buddy, he introduced me to Dungeon Alchemist. He's like, hey, maybe you should DM. Here's a copy of Dungeon Alchemist. You could try making maps with it. And I just started making maps with DA and got really obsessed with it. Like, really obsessed. I started streaming it, started posting content about it on my, my various social platforms. I started being active in the Discord. And then I asked, the dev team, hey, can we get a self-promo channel so streamers can promote their channels, or content creators who are promoting DA content can share it? And they were like, oh, yeah, sure. And then I had this me and Wim started chatting in the back end about my maps and my content creation. And I had this idea for a content creator team, like a creator guild, if you will, for Dungeon Alchemist, and we had a meeting to talk about it. And in the meeting, I told him how I ultimately was interested in pursuing a career in community management, or, content creation, community management, etc. And he was like, that is interesting because we're actually in the market for a community manager. And he goes, would you be interested in having an interview? And I was like, yeah. And he really liked my ideas and whatnot. So within a week, I had an interview with him and Carl. We sat down, and the idea of the creator team, instead of there being a team of community creators, there was me. I was the creator team. And it kind of evolved into that. Anyway, that is kind of the story of how I became a part of the team. And within like 2 weeks of me joining the team, they launched an update. So it was just like out of the frying pan into the fire. It was kind of, I definitely feel like I was definitely, like very lucky, fortunate. I was in the right place at the right time. One thing as a content creator, I do know that like some content can easily make you viral, or like, make you a great networking connection, or become like a very good potential, like content for your base, your community. And I think that was one of those instances. I didn't necessarily go viral with DA, but what I did do was kind of ingrain myself with the devs and get to know them, and they liked my content, liked my style, and wanted that to be part of the community, itself. And that's where it's gone, kind of evolved from. I do very much appreciate being a part of this community every day. I love our creator community, the various, GMs and cartographers and artists in our community who just love Dungeon Alchemist and are passionate about it. Hey, Swifty Goth, thank you for checking in. Hope you're well. But yeah, I really enjoy being part of the Dungeon Alchemist team, for sure. In fact, I don't know what I'd do without it. It's kind of one of those things that I just, like, really enjoy very much. I hope to be a part of this team for a long time. Whatever the devs come up with next, be a part of that. You know what I mean? Let's see here. I'm looking for a map to check out. Cannot look any of the landing pages because those are likely part of the damn challenge. So gotta just can't look at them. Not listening. Let's look at this Dwarven city. Michael Martinez, by the way, if you have any other questions or want to know how to make anything in Dungeon Alchemist, let me know. I mean, we offer, I think it's like 11 different environmental biomes and 2 immersion biomes. We have tons of different room types, thousands of objects, tons of cool utilities and features that allow you to build all sorts of maps with either, rapid assistance or by hand. Yes, I did like your microscope very much. It was hilarious. Felt like a Whoville. So this map is a Dwarven city, which built into the cave system here is very great. It looks awesome. Got lava. Looks like various chambers and storage areas. I really like the marble flooring they chose for the design. Looks really great. Is anyone in our audience running a campaign with a Dwarven kingdom in it or a Dwarven city? Do you think this could be useful in your campaign? The statue there reminds me of something straight out of Return to Moria. It is amazing, Parrot, isn't it? It's a clean map for sure. This map is 62 by 45. Hey, thank you for the likes over on TikTok. Much appreciated, much appreciated. I've been doing some like deep cleaning around the house and a little bit of renovating, and it has been just exhausting to me. I slept so hard last night, like because I was so tired after a long day. Basically, any time I have between like work or family is spent doing that lately. I mean, ultimately, James, if that's you, yeah, you could do that easily. I mean, a map like this, you could just download and swap out the flooring in a few clicks. That's one amazing aspect of Dungeon Alchemist, I should say, is just the ability to customize things on a whim. Maybe you want it to feel a little bit more rugged with cobble or certain sections to feel different from each other. Yeah, you can make custom tiles from an external image, but you can't drag and mass drop them like this. So under the object panel, if you go to abstracts right here, this guy, you see these green objects? These are customizable objects that you can insert an image into. And the image can be, whatever you want. So this could be a custom wall, a round wall. It can be a custom rug, a pillar. But in this case here, you could insert custom flooring if you chose, or an overlay for the floor, maybe a magic circle. So you could insert, in this case, I'm just going to put this snail shell image in there. So now I put this kind of cool, neat snail shell image on top of the tile. Imagine if you would, I did a custom flooring. If it's just fills in the entire template, which by the way, the templates are included in the object. If you click here, it goes to our website. And each of these is a template for each of those objects. So this one here is the template for that square. So this template is 1024 pixels by 1024 pixels. 1024 by 1024. And you could get a repeating pattern and have it in here that, you know, essentially repeats, and just hold shift, place this object, and as you place it, and, you know, repeat, repeat, repeat. Let's say I wanted snail shell flooring in this case. The grid insists to be below the object. That's pretty normal behavior. Grid tends to be below the object in most cases. One thing I can ask, are you exporting your map to a certain system, or are you printing it? Like, how are you planning to use your map? Do you play on a virtual tabletop, for instance, Mateus? Waiting for that answer really quick. Yeah, I was gonna say, if you use the VTT grid instead of the DA grid, you will have the grid on top of the objects. In fact, in most cases, we recommend you, if you're utilizing a virtual tabletop, most definitely do not export with the grid in DA on, like, present. It'll only cause you headaches in the long run because it may not align perfectly as you want it to. And our grid is more for building reference than it is for like virtual tabletop reference. Granted, you can export with a grid if you plan to play on like a TV tabletop or like a like print, etc. That grid is adequate and accurate. But when you start trying to match a VTT with, you know, DA's grid is designed to sit at one height, whereas a VTT grid can be any color, any size, can be transparent, it can be on top of, you know what I mean? You just have so much more control. You can adjust the size of the grid. To be honest with you, I think our entire like floor tiling system and our terrain system need like an overhaul, which will likely happen before we leave early access. But until then, hey, you know, until then we just got to have, you know, what we have. And that's when I like to point out we are in early access. Sometimes there are things that just aren't fully featured or functional yet. How you doing, Dramon Zavala Estrad? Welcome to the stream. I do think this map is great. I don't necessarily say that as a cop-out, as it is so much it is as it is, you know, the truth. There just are some aspects of DA that are not finished or fully realized yet, and they will be with time. Hey, Zhao, how you doing? That's a good positive outlook to have on the situation there, Mateus. You tried to print a map, but always gets weird because of the size of the grid. So what are your settings for the map? Did you start the map as a print map, or did you start as digital? German? Is it Germain, I'm assuming, or is it German? I want to add that Enya over your A. I want to make sure I pronounce that correct. So if you start as a digital map and you're trying to print it, if it's a massive map, of course, when you try to print it, you're going to be trying to scale the map to whatever the print size is. So, for instance, just some quick math here. If you do a 60 by 60 map, that's going to be like poster size or even larger, right? But if you try to, say, fit that on an 8.5 by 11 or an A2, it's going to be problematic. So when you're doing print maps, I typically recommend starting with the paper size you want to print and then making the entire map within that. Now, if you want a map that's larger than that maybe would be poster size or multiple smaller prints that would stitch together, you can start as digital, make your entire map, and then export it as an image, right? I'm going to just generate a map really quick. When you export it as an image file, you have a JPEG. That JPEG file you can take to like a print shop, or you can take it online to various, software tools. Like Adobe Acrobat, I believe, has something, and there's a website called Rasterbator that allows you to essentially take a large image and cut it into equal smaller size prints. So let's say you had a massive image and it would be, your printer is only 8.5 by 11. It would break that massive image into, say, 10 to 12 equal size smaller images that you can then print. In the future, we hope to maybe address that with, offering image splitting or map splitting to make it easier. But for now, when you're printing, there's a lot of considerations to take into account. The settings of the print of the map. Did you set it for print? Did you set it for digital? The size of the map. And then lastly, your print settings. Every single printer on the market is vastly different. And I'm not going to lie, printing is probably one of the most overshadowed and problematic aspects of computing today. Like, it's a $1 billion industry, and pretty much every printer doesn't work correctly, or half the time. So with printing, you need to make sure your printing software is set to print to page, print to full 100%, not to have margins. You got to do a whole bunch of stuff in your printer settings to make sure it prints as a full page without wasting any space, right? So just to keep that in mind, so check your printer settings, make sure the map is actually the right size for what you're trying to print. If it's too large or too small, of course, it's going to be obscured and a little off. I see, German. And honestly, it does take a little bit of trial and error to get it just right, especially with printing at home. I have printing in the US, we use what's called legal letter as the main size. It's 8.5 by 11. 8.5 inches by 11 inches. Is some random obscure format for paper. This is what we use. And It took me, even as an employee of Dungeon Alchemist, about 5-6 tries the first time I printed a map to get it to fit right, even though it exported as 8.5 by 11 from the settings, because my printer software and settings had margins. It wasn't set to, it was set to not fit to page. It wasn't set to 100%. There was like a lot of different variables. So if anything, I will just give you some words of encouragement. Play around with it and make sure you test it out. But if you start a map as a new map that is print for yourself and set your paper size of your printer, you'll have a lot of success, but then you're limited to the size of the paper. If you use digital, you can always use like a third-party tool, such as like this here. This allows you to insert an image and then break it into smaller images. So if you have a large map, you put in the map. Let's say you want it to be an A4 or an A3, a US letter, whatever. Set the orientation, tell it how many columns and rows, and it'll break the image up into many smaller, equal-sized parts. Tools like this, it's called rasterization, is the term, and it essentially takes a large image and cuts it into smaller parts. So the AI can't currently do anything with that, James. Our AI can only build one level, the main level. You can obviously raise the structure up and down with the AI generation. You can rotate it. You can make it round and diagonal and do all sorts of neat stuff with it before you generate it. AI, unfortunately, will only handle the base level of a structure. But multi-level can be built entirely by hand. There are hundreds of maps on the workshop that have multi-level in them to a great degree. I mean, some as simple as like 2 floors and a simple map. And this is accomplished using the variety of tools and objects in Dungeon Alchemist. So Dungeon Alchemist has hundreds of thousands of objects. There's an entire section dedicated to structural objects. Structural objects, when collisions are turned off, you can place objects at pretty much any height. So let's say you wanted to snap in a second floor here. I mean, I'm already just kind of starting away with putting like an area that could be part of another floor. This is just one simple example, but using the like objects on the workshop or objects in the structural section, you can build all sorts of multi-level structures. Let me show you a map I made on stream recently. We host 3 streams a week across our various platforms. 2 of them are multi-streams across like our stream platforms that we're on today, and one of them is on our Discord. But every Monday I stream what's called Mapmaker Monday. And Mapmaker Monday is a live build where you can watch me build a map and, you know, share feedback, suggestions, etc. I feel like my camera is cropped weird today. I don't know what happened. I gotta play around with it later. Might have bumped the screen or something, or this camera settings got reset. So this map is a 4-story tower. It's a wizard tower, right? And this entire space is navigable. And I built it in a way that it can be pulled apart and exported as individual layers. So you can export this just top down with the roof. Then you can hop in and grab the roof. Oops. Change the angle here. Pull the roof off. Or, you know, delete the roof and then export this floor. And then everything on the 4th floor, for the most part, is stacked on that floor. So you can pull it to the side. Same with the 3rd floor and the 2nd floor. There's this kind of a few different aspects of Dungeon Alchemist that are working in tandem here. Objects stacked on top of each other move as a unit. So I put all the objects on this floor on top of this wood beam piece that you see here. Same with every floor above it. Another behavior you're seeing here is obviously raising objects up and down. If you disable collisions in the object panel, it allows you to merge objects together without impunity, right? Normally objects will fight with each other when they try to get close to a wall or each other. They'll be like, no, you can't do that. That's one behavior. Secondary behavior is you can raise objects up and down when collisions are disabled. That's important. Keep that in mind for this next step. And then lastly, you can scale objects up and down pretty much without impunity, unless they start locked in size, which means you have a lot more control over your objects just by disabling collisions. That's the principle in play here, is I'd take an object, raise it up, and set it over the previous object. Some objects are stacked on each other to allow them to move as a unit and stay together and scale together. But yes, AI implementation of multi-level building will be available in our next update. They're actually doing some alpha testing of it behind the scenes right now, and from what I've seen, it looks amazing. When I can start sharing stuff about it, I will, but until then, all I can say is it looks awesome. But you can definitely tackle multi-level by hand right now. You just got to roll up your sleeves and stack stuff kind of diligently. Anyway. Part of building this map was more to just showcase it was possible. Yeah, Isaac, so it wouldn't be the base room. It wouldn't be this room that you would elevate. Or you mean, oh, okay. You know what, hold on. So, one second, let me generate just a new area and show you. I thought you were talking about these, but now I know what you meant. So when you're generating a room, any type of room, the AI rooms, as long as your Dungeon Alchemist is up to date, before you click that check mark, I know it's like impulsive to just click it right away, but you can do a lot of things with your floor plan before you generate it. First off, you can move it, you can rotate it, you can lower it, you can raise it up and down, pretty much. You can reshape it. I'm holding control right now, by the way, to just remove some of these tiles. So you have a lot of control over how you generate the structure. Again, we can make it round. We can make diagonal edges. All of this before you generate it. If you don't have this arrow, you may not be in the right biome. You need to be in a terrain biome to raise the building up and down. If you are in a dark parchment biome, for instance, or a green screen biome, they only have one flat plane to build on, so there is no elevation. But yeah, it's either you're not up to date or you're in the wrong biome. The building needs terrain under it to generate, and the non-terrain biomes just aren't really conducive to that. Quick little pro tip too, by the way, if anyone generates a building and you're not really happy with the layout, maybe you're like, well, I don't really like where the door is or the layout of the pillars. If you move the door and then go back to the room AI and click edit room and regenerate the room, the door will stay and the AI will regenerate around the room's location, or the door's location. So the door is the centerpiece for the AI's generation, so wherever the door is at dictates how the room kind of pans out in the end. This is especially important, let's say you're making like a chapel or, you know, cathedral or something. Depending on the layout, you may want like a door on one end and, you know, all this, the pews and stuff, and if it's not like a certain layout, it may not work. I'm going to just generate this. In this case, it actually put the door where I don't want it at all, right? So I'm going to grab the door, move it over to here. But where'd it go? Oops. Put it in between these two windows, right? And then we'll regenerate the room. Now the pews will reorientate around the door, making it a much more pleasing look for a chapel. Anyway, there's a little pro tip for everyone. Okay, let's go back to the workshop and check out some maps. I love sorting by new. Let's take a look at this Aboleth's lair. Not bad at all. This looks clean. You know, I always envisioned aboleths as like a deep sea creature, but an aboleth in a sewer seems terrifying. I just kind of like have a mind's eye depiction of a lot of creatures from the monster manual. Random ladybird. Oh, you. By the way, I hope you're doing all right. Like all things considered. Stand by. Okay. Sorry. My phone was just blowing up with a ton of emails, and I thought I was getting like spam or something, but it was just my notifications just all came through at once. Randomly, for no reason at all. So, sorry about that. Thought my phone was muted or on do not disturb right now, too, so I just muted it. I love the like use of the floor to make a catwalk here. And then it's like a clean cut into a pit. This is a really nice. Okay, it's dirty. It's a gross pit, but the cutting of the like catwalk or the like the stonework is very nice. It looks very good. I enjoy it. I just knew Random Ladybird was waiting to say something again, so. I gotta ask, has everyone been enjoying the new dam challenge so far? I've seen that there's been a few entries so far for the landing page dam challenge. Random Ladybird, I'm sorry for your situation, and I'm glad you're hanging in there. Bane, I see you lurking. This map's taking a moment to load, but you know what? It's cool, because this moment was brought to you by Brondo, the Thirst Mutilator. This download's taking a moment, so sorry about that. Steam's a little slow at the moment. 281 megabytes should not take this long. I might consider that. Oh, nice. Zhao, is he enjoying it? Wow, this is impressive. If you don't like this map, you may be in denial. It is indeed. Sorry, but the tin of tea ruins it for me. Just kidding. Love to hear it, Zhao. That's awesome. Do his players enjoy it? Man, this has got like mega Stargate vibes too. I made a mistake. This is stunning. Like, we probably won't add cultural iconography, too much of it, into our base, you know, stock assets. Such as, you know, God, you know, statues and wall templates and stuff like this, cartouches. And cultural iconography tends to, or like cultural assets can lead to, you know, potential problems with either a combination of problems, either where it can be considered as you know, cultural appropriation, and or, you know, it may not be considered politically correct. Now this here is just a great representation of like Egypt as a whole, but I do think us being in a fantasy setting, also cultural settings kind of don't necessarily have a place in a fantasy setting. You know what I mean? Oh, nice. That's cool. Grabnuck, what do you mean? But yeah, this map is beautiful. Very cool. Especially because most all of it was diligently done by hand. Like, very little of this map was just DAAI. So wait, you made this map, Grabnuck? Well, it's beautiful. You did a great job, and I can't wait to see what else you make if this is your first map. You set the bar very high, my friend. What's next? I'm just kidding. It's beautiful. You did a great job. Great use of custom assets, abstracts. It looks like all around you really went all out with it. Great work. I didn't make the connection because your Steam name isn't the same, so my bad there for not, you know, immediately congratulating you. Yeah, you definitely nailed the aesthetic for sure. Jimbo, can you tell us more about the crash? And do you, by chance, maybe have the map handy so we could take a look at it? Like, could you share the damn file in the Discord so we could take a look at it? Is the map heavily animated? Do you have lots of assets that are animated or moving, i.e., you know, lanterns, you know, animated objects that have movement to them, windmills, drills, etc.? Is there lots of assets in the map? What are your settings for DA? What are your computer specs? If you could give me some of this baseline information, we could use it to better assess the situation. Let's start with your PC specs, because a 100 by 100 map is a huge map in any regards for DA. So some things to keep in mind when you're in a DA map. Dungeon Alchemist loads everything that's visible on the screen. So it renders and loads it in real time. It's not a pre-rendered video game. It's a real-time render, 3D render. It's a 3D building engine that renders in real time. So when you are making a map or looking at a map, all of this is being rendered in real time by your computer. The further out you are, the more content it has to load, the more lighting, the more animation. So if you keep a tight focus on your map, zoom in closer, you'll notice your frame rate picks up, the game DA runs a lot smoother. That's one thing. So think of it as like flashlight rendering, where you're closer into DA, it'll definitely increase performance. If you go to settings, you can adjust your graphics quality to low, medium. If you're already on high, that'll increase performance drastically by adjusting lighting and shadows and quality. Screen resolution, if you're running DA, you know, at a 4K resolution or higher, you might want to dip it back to, say, 1080 for a 100 by 100 map. Yeah, let's open up a thread in support for now. Like a Charlie horse and one of my ribs. I didn't even know that was possible, but it hurts. I don't know, one of my ribs is just stabbing me. Grabnook, you did a great job. I think this is beautiful for a first attempt. You know, you really knocked it out of the park, my friend. Can't wait to see what you build next, for sure. I like the ruins back here, too. This is great. The temple of the new god built on the the ruins of the old god. But straight up, this could be out of like out of like a Stargate episode. Really clean. Great work. Do you have a... like, what kind of graphics card do you have? I'm keeping an eye on the Discord, waiting for that map, so I can take a look at it. Cool. Let's check out this one, Red Thug Base. Who runs Bartertown? Master Blaster. Just watched that the other day. Downloading your map right now. We'll take a look at it in just a second, okay? Really love how people are starting to lean into like the curved architecture. Just having fun with it. Well, that's a bummer. Do you have your autosave activated, my friend? So, first off, Jimbo, I'm sorry you lost some progress. Make sure the next time you load DA that you set your autosave up, enable it, set an autosave interval of, 1 to 5 minutes so you don't lose a whole lot of progress. Keep in mind, you're going to want to save regularly too, and autosave will not activate until you've named and saved your map at least once. So the first autosave will trigger after that. But it does act as a lifesaver when crashes happen. The background music, really? It does? Huh, interesting. I never put that connection together. Thomas, we'll cover round rooms in just a moment. I'm going to show our friend here. We're going to take a look at their map, and then we'll cover it, okay? Is that cool? Is this? No, it's not that bad. And I mean, in this case, it would have saved you a lot of time had you, had it on. I understand how it can be one of those things that can definitely slow down or lag from time to time, but if it's saving regularly, it's actually better. In fact, the longer you wait between saves, the more likely you are to crash DA when you're saving. We recommend saving frequently, saving often, regularly. So the autosave, the less data it has to update in between, more likely it'll run better. Map seems to load just fine. Running for me. Question for you, is there a reason why you have the land so big while you're kind of focused in such a small area at the moment? Few questions, Jimbo. Your graphics card. What kind of graphics card do you have? And is your GPU's drivers up to date? If you have a graphics card, you may want to check and see if your GPU is up to date. This map is 100 by 100. So it is 100 by 100. Definitely is. What you told me it would be. You also, depending on your motherboard in your computer, you may want to check and see if your motherboard and your chipset and all that is in your BIOS is up to date. Your Windows is up to date. All of that stuff can drastically decrease performance with, any application, not just Dungeon Alchemist, but games and other applications as well. As they get updated and, more frequently updated, and then you have some, a very outdated graphics driver, it may not be functioning correctly or cause crashes. One time I was getting crashes constantly with DA. It would crash like every 5 minutes. And what it ended up being was my CPU chipset driver needed an update. So I updated my my motherboard software and then went through and updated the BIOS and the chipset and everything. And after it ran great. Little things like that can make a lot of difference over time if it's been a while since there's been an update. But what I was going to tell you, Jimbo, if it were me in your case, I would only have the map as large as you're building at the time. Why? Because you're rendering all this space and you're not doing anything with it. And you can always expand the map later. So you're actually doing your computer a disservice. It's like you have a trailer attached to the back of your car, but you're just running in place, and it's putting a burden on your transmission, your engine, when you're not really using this space at the moment. So I'm going to cut it back, which will take a moment, to make it just to show you a point. You can always extend the map after the fact. It may take a minute to shrink it down this much, though, because I'm reducing it by like 68 squares. So you have a second generation or a 2060 RTX. Okay. Let's see here. You have an i5 and 32 gigabytes of RAM. Another thing too, make sure your RAM is using the correct speed, like the fastest speed it can. So now the map is much smaller, right? and I'm only rendering this space instead of the massive space around it. And if I wanted to, say, build off of this more tent, right? So we'll go to desert. And let's say I just wanted another tent, and I'm building off of this space here, right? Generate. It will add to the edge of the map automatically once you generate it. So it'll auto-extend the map for you. Or, alternatively, you can just grab the corner like I did to shrink it and extend the map. This is a great pro tip for, preserving processing power while you're building. Because then you're not actively rendering this massive sandbox that you're not actively using. But, I mean, grabbing the corner is kind of it will be the most processing, but yeah, you can build off the edge or grab the corner and extend it. Either one works. So check all the software driver updates, make sure your PC's up to date. Based on your specs, I probably would stick to, 50 by 50 to maybe 80 by 80 max. You could do 100 by 100. Don't get me wrong. You definitely can make them, but you want to do them in sections, like a small bit at a time, and kind of focus on the area you're building as you build it. That's actually a tip from someone who had a 10-year-old computer that used to build massive maps in DA. They would just focus on the small area of what they were building and then kind of build it at one area, one little bit at a time. Yeah, if I had to guess, I'd say it's like just some kind of software or drivers out of date causing an incompatibility. Okay, so Thomas wants to know how to do a round room. Let's show Thomas how to do that, okay? Thomas, I'm sorry for the delay. So to make a round room, first and foremost, you have to draw a floor plan that is equally divisible, okay? So if it is an odd number, so in this case 9 by 8, the 9 will not work to make a perfect circle. 8 by 8 will, 10 by 10 will, 12 by 12 will, 6 by 6 will. Okay, they has to be equally divisible by grid squares, meaning you can't split one of the grid squares in half to make the circle. So if it's 9 by 9, when you start pulling in towards the center, by the way, if you turn on the grid, Alt-G, you can see where the center is easier. It's in the center of this circle, or of this square, which means it'll end up making a bean. It'll be ovoid, or like a weird kind of, not necessarily what you're looking for, right? If the grid that you're working with is 10 by 10, however, or a perfect, evenly reducible, divisible by 2, you can then bring it into the center there. Notice that's kind of curving up towards that line in the center. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Perfect circle. Easy peasy rice and cheesy. Oops, clicked the wrong thing, darn it. Man, oh man, I feel bad, Jimbo. That's rough. So what I can say is, from this experience, take what you can from it, learn from it, save often, manually, maybe activate an autosave, and then try to keep the map focused on the area you're building at any given point. If you do want to zoom out and look at it, one thing I can recommend is make sure you're in low. That'll improve your performance. Make sure your view, if you want, disable natural animations. That'll cause the trees to stop swaying, the water to stop moving. This will grab you a few extra frames. And then make sure you save before you do a big pan like that. That way you're fully saved and backed up. But just like any major project you're putting time into, whether it's school or work, you want to save frequently, save often. That's a mantra I've, observed since I was in like grade school, and it's always been helpful, but I definitely lose content all the time. Jimbo, though, that thread you created, we can track it and try and support you there. Just noticing you can see. I guess it makes sense that you could see under the tent. Like, that makes sense, actually. Because it's just like a fabric. This map, though, is a pretty cool idea. So is it meant to be like a massive, like a kind of like a swap meet? Or something like that? Jimbo Slice, that's great. By the way, I just got your name. Just got the connection there. That is a bummer, my friend. I am sorry that you lost so much work. Oh, well, thank you, Jenkins. Welcome to the stream. I appreciate the love. If you do have any questions, concerns, feedback, let us know. Oh, wow. That looks clean. I like that. It's a nice looking bridge. This is great. Simple but elegant map. Perfect for encounters, chase scenes. You know, you could do all sorts of stuff with this. Be a great map to put like a card or something. A wagon. Something like this on the trail. Just tab a few times till we find the one that's stocked. That camel earlier, might as well just use it. Oh, man. Stand by one moment. You know, it's going good. I feel like I'm a bit out of sorts today, just tired, a little icky feeling, but other than that, I'm great. The stream's been great. Been showing off some really cool maps, enjoying the views. Other than that, though, we're kind of in the waning moments of the stream here. We're about to wrap up in the next 10 minutes. So, which means, you know, now it's time for so long. I'm just kidding. How's everyone's weekend going so far? Do you have any plans to game this weekend? Any tabletop gaming plans or video gaming plans or anything of that sort? So like I've been doing some work around the house. Just like renovation type stuff, cleaning up and picking up type stuff, and deep cleaning throughout the house, things that were kind of neglected for a while. Just kind of building up messes in the garage and stuff. Was it an epic session, Swifty? That's awesome. Problem is, I should have done it in the spring, but I wasn't motivated then to do it, and I was busy with the Magic update, so I didn't really have time to do it in the spring. The spring would have been a lot cooler in my garage and house. Oh no, Dyson. No. Mostly 3D printing. Gamrit, what kind of printer did you get? Again? I feel like you told me, but tell me again. Man, I really want to get one of those Bamboo Labs printers. Those things look amazing. Like, feels like 3D printing has finally gotten easy. Keeps popping a resistor, a fuse. It could have a bad capacitor. And the capacitors in air conditioner HVAC units are massive. They're also kind of like the bread and butter for HVAC companies. Because usually they're cheap for them to get in bulk, and then they swap them out and charge you, like, upcharge like 5-10 times the price. But capacitors are also incredibly dangerous. They can hold a charge in them, even, like, if there's no electricity connected to it. Nice! How you liking the bamboo? Hopefully a talisman session tomorrow evening. Talisman, interesting. What is talisman? Sounds familiar, but I don't know if I know a lot about it. Is the Bamboo X1C their main one, or the smaller one, the open frame one, or the box, the closed frame one? It's your fourth printer? I'm jealous. It would be my fourth printer if I got a Bamboo. Too many printers. It's a slippery slope, right, Gamroot? You get your first, and then before you know it, you have 4 printers, a print farm going 24 hours a day for pretty much no reason at all, just for fun. Nice. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about then. That's cool. That's really cool, Gamroot. I'm jealous, honestly. Their multicolor printing is impressive. And their build plate is like incredible. Have you seen the attachments you can get for the build plate? It's like a sticker plate and it makes the bottom of the print like all designy and have different like cool, I don't know, like shiny reflective surfaces and stuff. Board game fantasy with editions running back to the mid 80s. Interesting. That's probably where I've heard of it then. Just don't think I've ever played it. You know, I've been learning about Starfinder recently, and I am very impressed. One of my friends offered to set up a Starfinder session because they wanted to do something sci-fi-ish. And we were like, okay, that's cool. We'll learn it. So we've been reading and kind of understanding it. And as I'm learning it, I guess Starfinder is releasing like a game test, a new version for their new, like, because it's 1E, they're going to 2E next year, but they have a new game test coming in like August. That's cool, Gamroot. But apparently their test, like the new test version will be available on Foundry, like as soon as it launches, which is insane. It looks like Foundry has a really good like connection with Paizo to make that be happening at launch. I want to reach out to them and see if there's any like beta material I can get a hold of to look at. But there's a race in the game that's like a ratkin, a rat folk type thing. They're called, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right because I'm new to the lore, but I think it's pronounced Yasaki or Isaki. And they look amazingly fun. I think I might play a Yasaki mechanic. Yeah, Gamroot, there is some really cool third-party ones, and I think you can even order custom ones that have, like, branding in them if you want and stuff, but it's crazy how far 3D printing's come in the last decade. My first 3D printer was a FlashForge Creator Pro, and I think I got it in, like, 2015, 2016. And I remember I was eyeing a Lulzbot for a couple years before that. I don't think Lulzbot is around anymore. So many companies have come and gone in the last decade or so, but some good stuff has come out onto the market as a result. Sorry for anyone wondering, like, what are you guys talking about? We're talking about 3D printing, which I think will be part of almost every home in the next 50 years. You'll probably have some variation of a 3D printer at your home. Like, either it'll print food or like products. This is pretty cool. So I was trying to buy, like, the core Starfinder manual. I couldn't find a hard copy of it anywhere. You can only find, like, the mini travel book or, like, a PDF, and I was really irritated, and then I realized that's why. It's because they're, like, within a year of their new stuff coming out, so most of it's out of print. Probably just have to find it used or, you know, just stick with the PDF for now. The digital book. I just like physical books. I'm a little bit, like, old school that way. I love flipping pages, the smell of a book, the tactile feel. It's hard to beat. It's cool, Dre LA, I get it. No, Dungeon Alchemist has changed a lot in the last year, even. Massive changes and improvements. This is really cool. Well, I just looked at the time. It is time to wrap it up. Before we do, though, I want to open this map one more time. This is the winner of the Dam Challenge, the Tiny Home Dam Challenge. You know, Gamroot, if you really want to throw your players for a loop who, like, you know, might be metagaming or have really memorized what 5e can throw at them, start adding the stat blocks and stuff from 3.5 to the various, you know, different mobs, or mix and matching, so it really just kind of throws them for a loop. Dre LA, sorry I didn't notice your messages on TikTok. They all just came through in like a wave all at once. The TikTok chat is buggy for me. Sometimes it'll be really smooth, and other times it'll be like a huge amount of messages. But I'm glad you found us over here. Good, Gamroot. Probably keeps your players on their toes. Yeah, I mean, I'm on all the platforms, but sometimes the chat from YouTube and TikTok in particularly is sticky. It gets frozen and doesn't work, so I have to refresh those sites all the time. I honestly don't ever know if people on Steam are watching half the time, because Steam viewers don't chat often. And it's because the chat box isn't showing by default, which I don't blame them. You know, if you don't see it, you may not chat. But yeah, it's interesting. Like I like there's screens all around me. It's like a war room. So there's a chat screen here, chat screen here, chat screen here, and here. I just try my best to stay on top of it, but unfortunately, if I don't notice that it hasn't refreshed in a while or forget to refresh it, then that causes a problem. So I'm streaming right now, multi-stream to Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Steam. We used to also stream to Trovo and Kick, but in the 3 months we were streaming there, we maybe had a grand total of 3 people come through both streams, so I decided, at least for now, we'll just hold on to the names and wait until the platforms mature a bit before we decide to go back. But the rest of the platforms, we get pretty steady, you know, people popping in and viewing and supporting the stream, checking it out. We added Steam into the mix because Steam, our community there, felt like the devs weren't really communicating with them enough or interacting with them enough. So I agreed, and now we added that into the fold so they can hang out with us more. This map, by the way, all of it, the entire map, this home, the structure, this multi-story structure with stairs and rooms, fits in this backpack. That bottomless bag. Hope you're ready to have your mind blown, because that's like probably one of the coolest things ever, I think. Oh, thank you, Zhao. Appreciate it. I like to think I'm a good cheerleader for the Dungeon Alchemist like devs and our product. But I am passionate about Dungeon Alchemist as part of the reason, you know, I love sharing it and showcasing it. It's something that I believe in. You know, I believe in the company, the brand, the product itself. Our devs are really passionate, and truly do care about community feedback and insight, and it shows. There's a lot of software companies out there that either seems like they're either too big to like notice or like listen, or maybe they're too, monetized or corporatized to really like, I don't know, to listen to their community as a whole. And honestly, I really do appreciate that about our company and what we offer. It stands as a unique kind of entity nowadays in software development. And that's not to say every other product out there is the way opposite of us. In fact, there's plenty of companies that are like us, indie developers just trying to, get by in this incredibly volatile, software development market. And we do appreciate all the continued support from our community. Everyone who supported us as a Kickstarter backer, and stayed with us all through our Kickstarter campaign and the beta and going forward into, those that have supported us since we've dropped into early access and have continued, time and time again, sharing their suggestions and feedback, giving us information, sharing bug reports, and those that, hang out in our community initiatives or social networking spots and chat with each other, or, share content and, new building strategies and stuff. I really love the community we've fostered and created here. Not really. So DA launched into early access like April 2022. And I started with the company just right around like June of that year. So I've been with the company now just over 2 years. And I mean, DA was a Kickstarter and a beta before that for, about a year before that, a little over a year. But in the time I've been with the company, it's come leaps and bounds into what you could do. And there's still plenty of changes and updates happening after this. Oh, man. Well, all I can say is we appreciate the continued support. You being a driving force, a catalyst for the development and inspiration for the dev team to continue grinding and pushing themselves to their limits to offer new heights in Dungeon Alchemist, things that we never really anticipated on or, have made their way into DA over time. And it's awesome. I'm really excited to see what the future holds. I hope our community is excited as the devs are, because they've got some really cool stuff in the pipeline that will be, making its way out to the community sooner than later. Multi-level is going to be insane. I'm excited for that to get to a point where we can start showing it to you. Anyway, thank you everyone that participated in today's damn stream. Again, my name is Mac. I'm the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. Dungeon Alchemist is a map-making utility available on Steam. By the way, we now offer a free demo, so you can hop on Steam, download the demo. It clocks in at a modest 6.7 gigabytes. It allows you to test out Dungeon Alchemist in the forest biome, which is the biome you see here. You can build a tavern, play with the lighting, drop in a token, and walk around. It is a great way to test Dungeon Alchemist, kind of test drive it on your computer, see how it runs, and see if it's something you're interested in before purchasing, which is something we were really happy to add in our last update. We finally felt it was a good place to add a demo where DA was finally at a solid enough state that an actual demo could be available. Anyway, thank you so much for being here, everyone. We appreciate you all. We will be back on Monday with Mapmaker Monday across all our various platforms. I'm building a large, vast cemetery, like an ancient cemetery that's like hundreds of years old, so it will have lots of space, lots of graves, some are decrepit and old, some are new. Going to be a large cathedral and a groundskeeper's cabin. It's a work in progress, but we just started it last week. Anime Girl, I see your question. I'll try my best to answer it really quickly before we wrap up. This here is an object roof. This item. So Dungeon Alchemist, by default, our buildings, the AI rooms, won't have a roof. Why? Because 99% of people export their maps and top down and don't need to see into that room until they're in it. So they use fog of war type stuff or block it off. So the roofing isn't really adamant or necessary. For immersion purposes, though, I do believe a lot of people like having roofing. So there are a couple ways to address it. You can type roof in the object panel. There's a couple objects that work great as roofing and some that are even standalone, like this shingled roof here is exactly what you see right here. This one here, same thing as before. This one there. So this one can go on a round building. This one can go on square. If you disable collisions, they can be resized. They can be rotated. You can merge them together to have kind of like angles off of each other, like an L shape, or, you know, two together to have like a bigger square roof, etc. When the collisions are disabled, you can raise and lower roofing, right? So you can put it on top of a house. So that's how you would get it on top of something. Make sure you get down at that angle and make sure it's seamed really well and fits good. If the roofing options in here aren't enough for you and you need more at this time, which our next update will address roofing, but for now, if you need more, just go into the asset browser under the Steam Workshop tab, type roof. There's like 100+ roofing options that you can use. And if, you know, maybe even more than that, if you want like a flat roofing, you can go into structural here under the object tab. There is tons of stone and wood paneling that can be used as a floor in between, or even a roofing in a pinch. Hope that answers your question, Anime Girl. All right, everyone. Thank you for being here. I had a lot of fun hanging out with you all, but unfortunately, I must adjourn. So we will talk to you on Monday with Mapmaker Monday. So if you want to watch a map be made in real time, learn tips and tricks from a pro that has over 2,500 hours of map making, and you know, share feedbacks and suggestions on the build, feel free to tune in on Monday. The stream is at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, and 6 p.m. CET. It runs for about 2 hours. Until next time, we'll see you, and I hope you have a damn good week. Mac out. Bye!